Buenos dias. Breaking news and fantastic news, to be honest, on this Sunday morning. We just saw one of the most important on-chain governance proposal in the Cosmos Hub and Atom's history passed. And why that's such a big deal, what the implications are of this proposal, and which proposals are coming up next that might further change the course and revive the Cosmos Hub, its relevance, and also its attractiveness as an asset. I'm talking about the Atom halving proposal, which just passed with 72.6% of turnout, which means 72.6% of the eligible wallets that could vote have voted. 41.1% have voted for yes, 31.9% for no, 6.6% veto, and over 20% abstained. So this was a very, very tight race. Only hours before the proposal passed, it would have been rejected because we didn't have enough yes votes. So this was a last-minute thriller. And I think last night, every cosmonaut, every Atom staker and holder was just glued to their screens because this was absolutely amazing. And if we forget the outcome of the proposal for a second, the coolest thing and the best thing about this has been the participation from the community. And usually with such proposals that are obviously political to a degree, right? We also have Jay, who was super against this. We had Zaki, who was actually the original initiator of this proposal. So people usually quickly put tags and labels onto this. We also have validators as one camp, right? Because lowering the inflation rate means also lower revenues for validators. We have the retail community. Then we have people that want price go up. Then we have people that say this does not cause price going up. We first need another use case. So we had a lot of these different camps, but throughout the past couple of weeks, to my surprise even, the discussions around it have been super civil and very relaxed and not too much drama, not too much ugly debates. So really cool to see. And now it has been executed. So immediately when the proposal passed at 1 a.m. Dubai time last night, the inflation adjusted down to 10%, which you can see right now. So we are at 10%, which means also subsequently staking APR went down from around 19-point-something% down to 13.85%. What does this mean? This means you as a delegator, you get less staking rewards. And we as validators, or me as a validator and delegator, I also get less revenue from the validator, but also less for delegating. Now, why am I doing this? This is actually against my own conflict of interest here. And I actually have helped to draft this proposal to also promote this, because I think personally, my conviction is that this is a net positive for the longevity and for the sustainability of the Cosmos Hub. Even though I run a validator and this hurts my own business, this hurts my own revenue, I still think this is necessary. And we can actually also see, if you want to assess the proposal, the votings, and you can see here at the first glance, big validators like Allnodes, Dokia, Cosmos Station, they voted no, because for them, I think lowering the inflation means massively lowering also revenues, right? P2P also against, which I'm really surprised, to be honest. Pro validator Chorus 1 also was against. Sika, so that's Sunny's validator, his yes, or their yes, together with Dev, was super important. Multi-chain also, that was a big yes that came in last minute. And then you see here in the midfield, there's a couple of validators that are yes, and some of them that are against. With Cryptocito, obviously, we have been voting yes. We also thoroughly explained our stance here. Notional, by the way, also they switched from no to yes. So that was cool. But if we go further down here, especially the small validators, one would think the small validators, they all don't want this because they're already running at a loss, most likely, and lowering the inflation rate even further means they're running even more at a loss, especially if they're running consumer chains, right? But what's interesting, though, many of them have actually voted for yes. So many of the low-ranked validators actually want this, because I think they also consider this as an opportunity for the Cosmos Hub to regain relevance, for the Cosmos Hub to regain strength, right? Even the lowest validators here have voted for yes on this proposal. Stake and relax, by the way, delegate to him as well. But yeah, that's what it is. I'm personally very happy that this went through. And we can see the immediate price reaction of this was bullish. The immediate price reaction was a 4-5% little pump here. Then we actually went above $10 this morning. Now we're hovering around $9.60, something like that. And we can actually see that Atom is the top 3 gainer here on the 24-hour chart here in the top 100 of all cryptocurrencies. So Atom is alive, governance is alive, the community is alive, and it's very civil, which, to be honest, this is the biggest win here, is that with civil, constructive discussions, I think there was a lot of also valid criticisms against this proposal. Some of them were invalidated by just, for example, what I just showed you, smaller validators just voting yes. So this is where we are right now. And again, this is absolutely huge. Now, we also saw crypto Twitter taking note of that, right? For example, Ansem made a tweet here saying, if you're an Atom holder, and this was while the proposal was still up for voting, and you want the token to be worth something instead of just high inflation farm and dump coin, recommend voting yes on this proposal. To be honest, I also think this is another big implication, another big shift for the Cosmos Hub to move away from this purely inflationary rewards, because to be honest, I actually agree to that. For now, Atom has mostly been an inflationary, through out of thin air created atoms incentivized system that would reward the broader interchain development, right? And I think so far that actually worked, and that has been a valid use case, right? Also, I think airdrops have been one of the predominant use cases, as in bootstrapping new communities, right? Airdrop is a kind of meme word, but I think bootstrapping Cosmos communities has been the primary use case for Atom for the past years. Also, bringing Cosmos technology to the market, the Cosmos SDK, IBC, you name it, everything, right? But I think now the Cosmos Hub needs to find its own positioning, its own role, and also it needs to accrue on-chain revenue. It needs to generate real yield, right? So lowering the inflation to 10% is a first step towards that direction, because we have to replace this 13.85% staking APR. We have to replace that through real yield, through real on-chain revenue that's being generated through products, through, for example, interchain security, liquidity as a service, other services that Atom can provide to the broader interchain, right? Sunny actually made a fantastic post about Atom's positioning, and he considers the biggest strength, the biggest role that Atom could play would be to be the most decentralized governance token in all crypto. He even says that he believes Atom has a real shot at establishing itself as the third capital asset. And this is not something that Sunny has been always publicly sharing. This is actually something that Sunny came to believe during Cosmoverse. I remember when he came to me at Hackmas and said, man, I got super bullish on Atom again. And I see it now, how Atom could be this ultimate governance asset, and how Atom could build the decentral bank with a true governance system at its core. He also says here that a governance-based Atom can pursue activities such as protocol-owned liquidity injections, staking reward revenue shares, and active monetary policy, superpowers that neither Bitcoin nor Ethereum have. And I think it's great to see and important to see OGs in Cosmos to be realigned with Atom. Now, since the proposal went through and the news were public, this actually went viral here. Like, this was picked up by a couple of also bigger accounts. Ansem retweeted this. We also saw Wu Blockchain tweeting about this. Kaleo, who actually is a trader and says Atom is due for a squeeze. I'm long. This is when Atom, like right when the proposal went through and passed. He's also saying that historically this has been a solid range to buy Atom against BTC. You can see that here on this chart. And actually he's hinting here at a price target of around $16. And you can see this is just being picked up across crypto Twitter from different traders, different people. And I think it's cool to see, right? This is what Atom needs. So this was just proposal 1 out of 3 for part 1 of the atom tokenomics revamp, right? Part 2 is something completely different, which we're going to look into in a second. And we can go here on Mintscan and look what is going to be proposed next for atom tokenomics in terms of the minting parameters. We have the max inflation rate, which is now at 10%, right? Previously, this was at 20%. So we went down from 20 to 10%. The minimum inflation rate for Atom is currently set at 7%. So we are currently in a range between 7 and 10% for Atom inflation. And it depends on how many atoms are staked, with the gold bonded being 67%. So if we are above 67%, the inflation would gradually go down to a floor of 7%. If the staking ratio is below 67%, the inflation rate would gradually, on a per block basis, increase to a new ceiling now of 10% instead of 20%. And this per block rate change of the inflation is currently set at a speed of 1. So this is the inflation rate change parameter. And I'm explaining to you all this because we see now the inflation max parameter was adjusted. And to be honest, this was the most difficult one to adjust, in my belief, right? The next one is going to be the inflation minimum parameter, right? And the idea is actually here to bring this down to 0%. This would mean that atom inflation, for the first time ever, could actually go down to 0%. It could actually go down to nothing, right? Now, this would only happen if the bonded ratio was above 2/3, above 67% actually, for a long enough time. Only then we would go down to 0%, right? At the same time, we will also see, or maybe shortly after, the adjustment of the inflation rate change parameter from 1 to 3. And this would mean that if we set this to 3, the inflation rate would adjust 3 times faster than it currently does. But this is actually the equation here. Instead of 66, it's actually 67. But yeah, current bonded ratio divided by 67 times 1. And this 1 here is the inflation rate change parameter. So if this would be set to 3, we would have the inflation rate change per year in percentage as an outcome, right? And this means the velocity at which the inflation rate would go up or down, which all depends eventually on the bonded ratio. So this just, if you understand that, you would probably understand also the importance of these parameters. To be honest, right now, we are below 67%. We're actually at 65%. And I personally think that we might see more volatility for the atom price, for the bonded ratio in the coming weeks, because this has been a quite substantial proposal where also some people, including Jaquan, have said that they would exit or at least substantially lower their atom holdings if this proposal were to pass, and now it passed. So we will see what will come out of this. But at the same time, this also opens the doors for new investors, for new liquidity, for new VCs and whales to buy Atom, because now the supply schedule is more predictable. And if you know about economics, basic economics, supply and demand, if the supply goes down or gets slower, eventually, if demand remains stable or even increases because we see more adoption for interchain security, more adoption for Atom as an asset in DeFi, we would see the Atom price just going up, right? It's basically basic supply and demand. So yeah, that's really about it. So to recap, inflation max halving has happened, inflation minimum removal, then the inflation rate change parameter, and then the big proposals, the value accrual proposals for the Atom tokenomics by Effort Capital, who has been also part of everything that I just talked about. He's really a gift for the Atom community, to be honest. He's going to put up some proposals that he's been working on now for, I think, around a year almost, which means the Atom alignment treasury, something that the team over at Binary Builders has actually developed and worked out, a vote power tax, and a dynamic LST tax, which the Atom community would benefit of with increased adoption for liquid staking. And then a big one about protocol-owned liquidity and to create a market mechanism for that. It's going to be interesting how this will all be received by the Atom community. But if we already see a pump of 7-8% from the first proposal, it might be a good indication of what would happen if future proposals would go through. And this is all subject to on-chain governance. Atom, in my opinion, also, I agree fully with Sunny here, is the ultimate governance asset, market leader in all crypto when it comes to governance, besides interoperability, besides liquid staking, with the liquid staking module being in production now. The stars are aligning, my friends. I think we still have a long way to go. Noble needs to go live now. I think we still have a week before it goes into testnet. When that goes fine, I think Noble migrating as an Atom secure chain, which then indirectly also aligns Circle, DYDX, and Noble with the Cosmos Hub, is going to be another big value add for Atom. So we see a lot of improvements on the inflation parameter side, on the inflation schedule, on the tokenomics utility, and on the product side. Also now that Informal Systems has received $5.7 million to be funded throughout 2024 to build out further interchain security, also to do business development around interchain security. I think the stars are aligning. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great Sunday. I'll see you guys soon. Stay safe and be good.